Hello, listeners. This is Kat. Welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Watch Your Heroes Fall. This will be Part 18, Chapter 20, entitled Phase 2, Scene 11, Breaking the Fourth Wall. The League of Villains was actually following Eraserhead down Chambers Street on his mid-afternoon Saturday patrol. They planned to pull what they did in their fight with Mirko again. The three-team strategy. Team 1, the camera crew, would be Hitoshi and Magne, running and screaming to draw Eraserhead's attention. Team 2, the choreographers, would be Izuku and Shigaraki, and Dabi and Shoto, watching from a hidden place and giving pointers on when to throw the fight. Team 3, the actors, Compress and Kurogiri and Jean and Himiko and Momo, would be the main combatants. They were going to show the world that Eraserhead, even in a fight against a villain like Kurogiri or Momo or Jean, where he's basically quirkless, kicks ass. Izuku had his speech memorized, and everyone was preparing themselves for the moment when Izuku would whisper over the comms that this was the moment, and Hitoshi and Magne would be the screamers to draw attention and the fight would begin. Everyone in the league was ready. Eraserhead, who had felt a tail on him for the last block or so, since Jean's a little sloppy at stealth, was ready. The only thing left to choose was the place, the moment. But that moment never came, because 20 seconds before Eraserhead would have been poised right in front of the large windows, fronting a busy department store, everyone fell over. Eraserhead, the league, the people in the department store, everyone fell flat on their asses as the ground began to pitch and roll under their feet with a 5.7 earthquake. Buildings wavered, and asphalt cracked, and every window in the department store from the ground up to the 5th floor shattered, and people screamed from every corner of Chambers Street for about 15 seconds. And then the ground stilled, and people began to pour out of the buildings and into the relative safety of the open street where cars had stopped and were starting to try and go again to get out of the danger zone, to get home to their families, to get away before the aftershocks. But Eraserhead had just enough time to get back on his feet and escort a woman with a broken stiletto to a taxi, and the League had just enough time to help each other up and check that they're all uninjured. Then the ground pitches and rolls again, and the aftershock is smaller, and the people are ready, and they brace their legs and stay on their feet, but buildings have neither legs nor feet. And so the department store, with foundations built on willful ignorance of building codes overstepped by a greedy hedge fund manager, creaks, cracks, and begins to tip towards the center of Chambers Street. Izuku is screaming in an instant. Himiko! Jean, copy Shoto's quirk. Freeze as much ice under that building as you can to stop it from falling. Shigaraki, disintegrate whatever you can reach. And then Izuku is in the air, full cowling for the first time in a month, and he makes it to the roof of a smaller building on the opposite side of Chambers Street, and he puts himself onto the building to try and catch it. And the only reason he doesn't die trying is because Magne's yanked him away with her magnetism, and he's 50 feet from the crash site when it happens. Magne, there are people in there! We can't leave them! Izuku screams. Nobody's suggesting we are, Kurogiri says, murmuring in the quiet after the crash. But that building was already falling. You would have died trying to stop it, Dabi says, looking a little pale. Shoto and Momo and Hitoshi wrap Izuku in a hug. Don't do that shit again, Hitoshi says. Another aftershock trembles through the earth, even weaker than the first, but enough that some rubble shifts in the wreckage of the department store. We still need to save those people, Izuku says. Momo whispers. Aizawa-sensei was under there, on the street. He was right there. We'll find him. Shigaraki, out of everyone, Shigaraki, says. He's way too OP to die. Izuku begins to murmur his plan, and Shoto translates for anyone that the muttering is too quiet for. There are 3 teams now. Team 1 is Demolition. Jean has made a copy of Shigaraki, and the copy plus Shigaraki himself and Dabi are destroying larger parts of debris very slowly, very carefully. There is nobody around with a quirk suited to search for survivors, and Himiko doesn't have the blood, and Jean doesn't have the measurements to copy anyone who could either. So the Demolition team is very slow, very careful, and working as fast as they can. Shoto is on Demolition too, helping destroy debris and using ice to create support structures anywhere that the debris seems to be shifting. Izuku's pointing those spots out whenever Shoto happens to miss them. Team 2 is Extraction. Compress had offered Himiko some blood, and the 2 of them, plus Kurogiri, are helping people out of tight spots, where destroying the rubble around them might be more dangerous than Kurogiri warping them out, or Compress and Himiko shrinking them down and simply picking up the marble. Izuku is helping them see which spots are too unstable to work with, and how best to avoid aggravating injuries. Team 3 is Rescue. Momo's making specialized medical items for every person they save. Neck braces and slings and bandages and disinfectant and wet wipes and little soft trinkets for the tens of kids who had thought they were in for a nice shopping day with their mom, but now can't find their mom anywhere. Magne's quirk is too volatile to use without disrupting the rubble, and Hitoshi's quirk isn't applicable here. And Jean himself doesn't have much use after creating the copy, so the three of them are putting Momo's items to use, and comforting the civilians and explaining everything. Yes, we're the League of Villains. No, we didn't make the building collapse. Yes, we're going to help you. No, we're not heroes now. And, of course, some pros arrive eventually. President Mike arrives on scene first, about 15 minutes after the earthquake. By then, the League is already seamlessly running the rescue operation. But they hear him approach, and they all pause, and Izuku tells them that they better not fucking stop until everyone is out from under that rubble, and he turns to President Mike, Yamada-sensei, his English teacher, Aizawa-sensei's husband, and he doesn't know what to say, so he just smiles a little skittishly, and shrugs, and President Mike says, "Is he?" And Izuku's eyes well with tears, but he keeps them there, in his eyes, and says, "We're going to find him. We have not lost a single person yet." And by that point, there was evidence of that in the form of 30 or so people huddled together near Momo and her pile of medical supplies, while Hitoshi and Magne helped a man with a concussion over to the group, and the demolition and extraction teams are smoothly removing rubble and civilians, and all President Mike can say is, "What can I do to help?" And Izuku stiffens his upper lip and tells President Mike that since he's got more experience in the field, he should be helping the demolition and extraction teams with pointing out unstable areas of rubble. And President Mike wants to crumble under the fear of losing Shota and the fear of what the responsibility of every life in that department store will do to Izuku, but he keeps his game face and heads over to Shoto. The hidden hero, Cerberus, is next. About 30 minutes later after the earthquake, she surveys the scene before approaching, taking in the rescue operations already underway, President Mike's assistance, and the massive huddle of dozens of civilians at the edge of the street. Then she walks up to Izuku and introduces herself. "Cerberus at your service. My quirk can see through solid objects. I can search the wreckage for anyone left in there." Izuku, nice battlesuit covered in dirt and various small dots of blood and ash, turns to her. "Good. Work with these two teams here. President Mike will be able to direct you." "No offense," Cerberus says, "but you don't need to use him as an intermediary." Izuku smiles wryly. Heroes don't exactly line up to work with villains, much less under the direction of 15-year-old ones. "This hero does," Cerberus says. "I follow the news. You're not just some kid. And you're not a villain." Hitoshi, carrying a sniffling 10-year-old while Magne carries his father, says within earshot, "Somebody gets it." And Magne laughs. "Where are the ambulances?" Dabi calls over his shoulder. "It's been fucking forever." "Dabi, there's kids," Jean cries. Cerberus calls back. "They can't get here. There's been road blockages all over. The news trucks can't even get here to report on this. I ran 20 blocks from my car." "Are there any other large-scale disasters like this?" Cumbers asks. "One," Cerberus tells him. "About a half-mile away. Maverick's agency is handling it all right." Cerberus grins brightly at Hitoshi and then the kid, then Magne as they pass her on the way to Momo and the crowd of civilians. "Deku, right? Tell me what to do." Everything gets done a lot faster with Cerberus. They're able to direct the extraction team right to those who needed it, and the demolition team is able to destroy the debris blocking the way without worrying that there might be someone trapped just below. It's been something like 43 minutes when they managed to unearth Eraserhead. He's got his capture weapon strung up to suspend giant hunks of concrete and rebar about 6 inches above where he's pressed flat to the uneven asphalt. President Mike tries to run in, but Cerberus and Hitoshi hold him back because there's a countertop that might once have held a cash register crushing Eraserhead's foot, and his capture weapon is a complicated mess suspending a swath of debris at an angle behind him. Shigaraki insists on disintegrating the web of rebar and concrete personally, and he shoos the clone out of the way to do it. Eraserhead blinks up, eyelids trying to close against exhaustion and pain and the waning sunlight of the afternoon, and the first thing he sees is Izuku, trying to decide who out of the extraction team is going to handle this the best. And then Izuku meets Eraserhead's eyes. For a split second, Shota sees his problem child, the one who cries when people yell at him, and takes more notes than any high school student should take so enthusiastically, and likes peppers on his pizza. Izuku smiles down at him. "Hi, Aizawa-sensei," he says. "I should have known it was you tailing me." "That was me, actually," Jean says, from a little ways off. "I'm not great at stealth like the kids are." "He's okay," Oh, thank fuck, he's okay, President Mike cries, and he pushes past Cerberus and Hitoshi, who trail behind him, to look down into the pit where Eraserhead is trapped. Sho, darling, are you all right? Be honest. I'm fine, hon, Shota says. What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be reporting on all this? While my husband is trapped in the fucking rubble? Volume, several people say at once, and Hisashi takes a deep breath and apologizes at normal volume. I'm assuming it's a ceasefire for rescue operations, Eraserhead says. Cerberus pokes her head over the opening and waves and explains. More like the villains are the ones saving the day. President Mike and I are the only pros on scene. The roads are blocked about 20 blocks west of here and in a bunch of other places. Nobody else is here. Eraserhead's expression crumples, uncharacteristically. President Mike starts to wring his hands. He knows that this is his husband's telltale sign of concussion. Eraserhead asks, The civilians, are they? All safe, Himiko says, brightly, proudly. She's grinning even as her transformation encumbers his form is melting off her face. Hitoshi nods, then realizes Eraserhead can't see him and says, We've been getting everyone out. Nobody dead. Nothing worse than broken bones. Which is good, because the ambulances can't get here either, Dabi adds. Momo, Eraserhead calls up. Shoto. He's too tired to care about who's a villain or whatever right now. Right now he just cares that his kids, and the people who've been taking care of his kids, are safe. And Shoto peeks into the hole and says, Momo's making medical supplies. You can see her when you're out. And when Magne makes a face to indicate that he should be more clear, Shoto adds, We're both okay. Eraserhead exhales and leans back against the dripping, broken pipe at his back. Why are you all just standing around? Let's get me out so we can get everyone else out. We? President Mike starts and is reminded about volume by several people all at once. You're the last one, Cerberus says, peering around and blinking rapidly. My quirk can see through solid objects. There's nobody else left. We got them all. Nobody misses the way Izuku immediately sags a little at the news, or the way his eyes well with tears. But Shoto grips his hand, and Izuku sniffles it away, and says, Kurogiri, warp him out, please. Himiko, Jean, you can drop your quirks now. Momo! He calls over to her. Is anyone still missing family? Momo takes a minute to address the civilians, and there's some conversation, and she turns back, face bright and exhausted. No! Everyone is here. Did you find Sensei? We did, Hitoshi yells back. He's okay. Everyone's okay. Himiko drops her transformation, and Jean gives his clone a firm pat on the back that dissolves it into mud. Momo stops making new medical supplies and lies flat on her back, while nearby civilians try to offer her the candies they had stuffed in their pockets before their day went to shit. Kurogiri warps Eraserhead over to the rest of the civilians, and the League, plus President Mike and Cerberus, amble over to join him, and President Mike takes some of the stockpile of medical supplies and starts to bandage up the scrape. And only a scrape, thank goodness, on Eraserhead's leg, and sticks a band-aid over the cut on his forehead, and fusses over him how husbands do. Izuku slumps to the ground and starts to cry, and Cerberus, the one and only who does not know him well, startles nearly out of her skin, and some of the villains who have only known Izuku as stalwart and dependable and capable of putting the whole world on his shoulders and carrying it that way for weeks, startle too, but they keep it hidden. Everyone sits down. They're still waiting for ambulances, but it's over. It's over. It's over. They did it. 259 people saved from 5 floors of a department store. It was a 5.9 earthquake with 3 aftershocks. So far, the aftershocks will likely continue to tremble through the ground for another several days or so. And they saved everyone. Holy shit, Magne murmurs after a few minutes of just sitting there. We just saved, like, a bunch of people. Jean smiles a little, looking at his hands with an expression that could maybe be baffled or impressed. We sure fucking did. Shigaraki isn't smiling, but Kurogiri can see where the edges of his mouth aren't frowning, and Kurogiri smiles too, just in his eyes. Dabi grins, though, wide and brighter than flames. Dude, that's fucking awesome. We beat the heroes. No offense, Cerberus, husbands. None taken, Eraserhead replies, and derails to add, Does anyone have food for Yaoyorozu? She way overdid it with her quirk. You're not the teacher of me anymore, Momo replies, swatting away his concern with a hand. But Himiko jumps up. I do, and she unzips a pocket of her dress and pulls out 3 protein bars and shoves them all at Momo with a kiss on the crown of her head, before running back over to President Mike and Eraserhead and giving them a full tour of her outfit, starting with the socks and working her way up and telling them about how Momo is just the best, so of course Himiko has to carry snacks for her, since they're friends. And for the moment, nobody does anything but sit there and revel in the fact that they're all okay, and nothing is wrong. Until Power Loader and Mount Lady arrive on scene, and they don't see what just happened. All they see is 262 civilians huddled together, all injured, and all 11 members of the League of Villains sitting with them, uninjured, and they draw their own conclusions, and Mount Lady is already twice her normal size before she hears a tiny voice scream, "Stop!" And she looks down. And there's 2 kids, something like 8 and 15, and their mom standing behind them, and they're moved to stand in between Mount Lady and Power Loader and the League of Villains. "Please step aside," Mount Lady says. "We need to arrest these villains." "If you don't move aside, we have to consider you accessories after the fact," Power Loader adds. "Accessories after what fact?" the older kid says. "They haven't committed any crimes." A group of high school girls all limp and drag themselves over to stand with the kids and their mother. One of them holds out a cracked cell phone and starts live recording. Another throws her shoe at Power Loader. A third screams, "They saved our lives! You were across town! Get the fuck out of here!" An old man whose leg is broken and can't stand in solidarity cries out, "Let them go home!" And there's a chorus by now. "I don't care if they're villains. They saved us. They're just kids. We owe them our lives. You can have their arrest over my dead body. You'll have to go through us first." And Izuku's still sitting slumped on the ground, and he's crying fully now, and he's so tired. He's so tired. He knows he needs to get them all out of here before this gets ugly, but he also is so overwhelmed, and he's thinking, I'm 15. Shouldn't I just get to be 15 for now? I'm so small, and everything around me is so big, and I just want to be a kid. And then Kurogiri's portal has swallowed him and the rest of the League, and he's laying on the cold wood floor of the bar for an instant before he passes out. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 20 of Watch Your Heroes Fall. Chapter 21 will be up next, and as always, thank you all so much for listening.